We're recording. You're listening to the Tune Up and Jam podcast. Ready? Go.
This is episode number 13.
Tune Up and Jam.
All right, tune up, turn up, get down and start jamming. Hello and spasiba.
You're welcome.
Yes, spasiba is thank you in Russian.
Ah, all right.
Yes, spasiba.
Spasiba. You want to know how I know
Spasiba.
that?
How do you know that?
Sex in the City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you'll have to research that. It's a little graphic, so I don't want to say it on the podcast.
All right, I'll be right on it.
Where
as
do you
soon as
think?
I-
Where do you
It
think
includes-
Rich? Where do you
All
think
right,
Rich
podcast is over, guys. Good night.
It includes a Russian waxer, so spasiba.
Spasiba. Really, spasiba. I did not get that from Sex in the City, but I will check it out.
Yeah.
Your card
We know you
remains
will.
intact.
Rich is gonna go pull out his DVD collection of all the seasons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you guys want to finish without me? I'm just gonna go. now.
Yeah.
So anyway, Francis,
Hey, what's up?
what do we got?
What we got? Hey, you guys want to talk about some favorite things?
These
It is
are
the
a
time of
few
the season.
My favorite things.
Yeah,
it's a great song.
Yeah, I always think it's good to do favorites, just because it lets people think about other artists and other experiences that either they have in common or something new that may sound interesting enough for them to check it out.
It allows people to go, yeah, or no, you're an idiot. No way.
Yeah.
Right? That's what
I've
you-
done that tons of times.
Or
here-
like
here.
who?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
Who? What?
But see,
Where?
those are the moments, if somebody talks about something so much, it's like, all right, well, let me just hear what the hype
Right.
is about.
Mm-hmm.
And, and there are times I'll be, I'm glad I heard that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. So that's why I like the favorites.
Cool.
Well, it's
Love it.
it's interesting that you say who, because a legendary live band was The Who.
Who?
Yeah. Who?
Yeah.
Not. I've never seen them live. Anybody else ever
Nope.
seen The Who live? I think
Totally saw them. No. Kidding.
different generation. I mean, I know sometimes they still go out. John Entwistle and Keith Moon no longer living, but they were a band that was apparently much better live even than albums or anything else. Legendary band. So there's bands like that,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe there's bands that you would expect to be amazing that are amazing that you've seen live. So
Mm-hmm. Or completely different.
completely. different.
Maybe it's like it's not good, it's not bad. It's just like, whoa, that live experience was completely different from the record.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be good or bad.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
So we're talking about favorite live bands, favorite live shows, favorite
Live venues?
Venues.
It's all about live.
Okay. So
What you got?
my favorite concerts that I've seen. I'll tell you. One that sticks out probably as my all-time favorite. Maybe it was probably because of my age. I was 13 or 14 when I saw Metallica for the first time, and it was during the Injustice for All tour.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember that tour.
you saw it too?
I was on that tour. I mean, yes, I did. I did go to that tour. But I went in San Francisco. You were probably in Pittsburgh.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that the first time you ever saw them?
No, I saw them when they came around with the Van Halen Monsters of Rock.
Oh, okay.
That
yeah.
was before Justice was released.
Yeah. I think they debuted one or two songs
Yeah,
from
yeah,
Justice. Yeah.
exactly.
But that stands out as probably, I think probably more because of my age and the time period and
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But you got to throw in Metallica was a ridiculously good
yeah,
band.
there's
live.
that too. Of
Great
course,
show.
I mean you're talking about probably to me the gods of speed metal. You know what I mean? Probably to most people who listen to metal, put them up there, if not number one, really really close to number one.
And
So
you-
to be able to see them in their prime, although without Cliff Burton, but still. In pretty
Yeah,
much their
I
prime.
do consider that. Yeah, with the exception of the absence of Cliff Burton, the bassist who died on tour, got crushed by when the bus had an accident. But yeah, that time I think their peak in my opinion.
Yeah, because Injustice for All was also really progressive too. I mean, it had a lot of, when they even talk about it, they're like, I don't even know how we did this. You know, we have like a song with like 12 different time changes in it, and I mean, it was not only the aggressive metal, speed metal, all that kind of stuff in it, but it was progressive, and James Hetfield's writing, you know, everything, the lyrics, and then just the live.
Who opened
energy
for them in Pittsburgh?
Well, I saw him twice, and the first time it was Queensryche,
Yeah, that's
then-
who opened Queensryche. Yeah,
and the second time was the Cure, the Cult. Sorry,
Cult.
not the Cure. That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be
That'd be
good. But that, I think, is my favorite concert. Just the overall experience, the stage show, the props they had on stage, everything that went along with it. Just being able to see those guys, 14 years old, just wrapped up, is my probably all-time favorite concert. Civic Arena in Pittsburgh.
I'll throw in something for Metallica, and I'm not a metal guy. We all know that, and I'm not cool enough to have seen them before the Popular album, whatever one that was.
Black Album.
The Black Album. So I was one of those people who came on like, oh, this is kind of cool. And when the real Metallica fans were like, oh, they're selling out and terrible. They were selling out. They were actually selling out huge venues at that point and putting on amazing shows.
That's what Lars says.
And-
Yeah, we sold out every night.
Yeah, and
Which they were doing before the Black Album, by the way, but still.
But
Anyway.
I saw them the first time when I think I was 17 or 18 years old at a place called Castle Farms in Charlevoix, Michigan, which was a super cool venue. It's no longer being used for live performances. We just had many great concerts. Michigan people will know about it. But saw them there, and then I also saw them at Marcus Amphitheater in Milwaukee, and Danzig opened for them, and Suicidal Tendencies. So
that's a good show.
And it was during Summerfest
Mhm.
in Milwaukee, and so you want to talk about a nice venue and just a really cool atmosphere. Both those pretty amazing.
Nice.
I grew up in a concert venue. My dad was the general manager of Gibson Amphitheater, Universal Amphitheater, for my entire life, 23 years. So I literally grew up on stage crates and containers and different things like that. But so concerts are endless for me. I've seen anyone that I've ever wanted to see and seen people that I didn't even know and was amazed. But for me, in one time in particular, and I know I always say this artist, but I saw Justin Timberlake at Staples Center, which for me is a hard venue because it's just hard to play Staples. There's so many seats, and unless you have the right configuration of the stage, I like it in the round, but even if you're in the round, you have to play the round properly, and there's so many artists that struggle with that, or they're stuck up against the wall and you're in a nosebleed seat and it's so hard to see. So I went and saw Justin Timberlake do the Future Sex Love Sounds tour, which is one of my favorite albums of all time. And I was shocked. I mean, this guy was dancing, he was singing, he was playing piano, then he was playing guitar, then he was off on the side stage in the middle of the seats, then he was back in the round, he had backup singers, he had dance. Like, there was so much going on, but it wasn't a Staples like aesthetic, here's fireworks and a big screen, and it was literally a band on the stage and him running around for 2 hours and sounding like butter. And I was just I was 14, 15 at the time, just like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And from then on, anyone asks me, what's your favorite Justin Timberlake, Future Sex Love Sounds? It's just, no one's been able to top that so far. Styx, I love Styx. They come close, but God.
Wow.
I know.
That's
wow.
Two
Yeah.
opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
I discovered Styx when I was like 16 or whatever, and they played the amphitheater. I was like right
Domo
in the...
arigato, Mr.
What year was this?
This is probably 2009.
Was this what's his
with
name?
Boston.
Boston. Wow.
I think it was like
Was it?
Boston, Chicago, and Styx or something.
But
like
that's
It's like
that.
a throwback
after-
concert, huh?
Yeah.
That would be after the lead singer from Boston died, right?
Brad Delp.
Yeah,
I
what-
know that name.
That's
Brad
nice.
Delp.
Well, I know the guitarist, Tom Schultz.
Yeah, Tom Schultz.
Was
he's
this
still
was this at like a farmer's market somewhere? in 2009. I saw this.
No, this was. I think
Rib
this
Fest.
was at the
Gibson,
Gibson Amphitheater.
Gibson,
yes.
Yeah.
But I've seen Styx like once a year for the last like
Was the
5,
guy?
7
What's his
years.
name? Because I heard there was a falling out with the lead singer
And Styx.
in Styx.
Yeah.
Den-
He doesn't-
Dennis.
Dennis DeYoung
Dennis
doesn't
DeYoung.
play with them anymore. Tommy Shaw and JY.
I really like Tommy's voice, and
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
The new lead singer is a guy, Lawrence McGowan, I think is his name. He's huge in Canada, had a solo career and is huge over there. And now he sounds identical to Dennis DeYoung. He plays a keyboard that revolves, and he'll play backwards half the time, like just hitting full chords and like scales. And I'm like, what is going on? And you have Tommy Shaw, and like every time I see them, it's in LA. So Chuck Panazzo comes out, the original bassist, and it's just like, I mean, I'm a huge Styx geek. I have a ton of signed records, and they're all on my walls and everything. But I know I'm kind of like, be like,
No.
oh my God, I love Justin Timberlake and Styx and Justin Bieber. It's just like everyone.
I remember.
Everyone's allowed.
I remember in grade school there was a classmate of mine who was just all about Styx.
The harmonies on Renegade, like to this day, I'm like, that's the sole reason for getting a band, so that they can sing the harmonies of Renegade.
Well, when
with
that
me.
opening line comes up, it's like I always love hearing it. Just his
Just
voice,
Tommy Shaw.
just Tommy. Just how it's so. It's like kind of has this like melancholic
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
It's a cool vibe. I like that vibe.
Totally.
It
know what
rivals
you're
his damn Yankees days.
Yeah. Come
Oh
on.
God.
That's the one with Ted Nugent, right?
Yeah.
That was a
Ted
super group.
Nugent. Yeah.
Super group, yeah.
Wasn't there somebody from Kansas in that group also?
I don't
or
even.
something
I
like
know
that?
it was Nugent.
Maybe
Nugent's
it was
for sure, yeah.
Kansas and Boston and Styx. Maybe it was in Chicago. I don't know. One of those
The super
state
groups.
cities.
Yeah, yeah.
70s
yeah.
super groups.
But Justin Timberlake, that sounds
Justin.
very. I wish I'd seen that one.
Yeah,
Dude
me
is-
too.
Yeah, I
that
wouldn't
dude
mind
is
seeing
uber
that.
And
talented.
that was at a time when he, wasn't really doing music for a while until he put out that record, and so everyone was like, "Oh my God, what is this tour going to be like?" Even I was like kind of skeptical about going, and then I was like, "Oh my God!" Like I've never heard the guy hit a bad note, or play something incorrectly, or dance the wrong. Like he's just seasoned to his core. Like he is a professional. Everything.
That's what Disney will do to
Yeah,
you, right?
it's
They
a
will turn out this
machine.
little robot. But he is uber. That dude is uber talented. And if not for like Prince,
Yeah.
he might be the man. But then there's
he was creeping in my head
yeah.
too.
Then there's
yeah.
Prince,
Yeah.
and that was a show that we all went to. Did you see Prince at all when he
I
did
saw
his
Prince
21?
at the Forum.
Yeah, with the
Yeah.
21 days he did in
I
LA.
have a Prince pick.
Oh
Oh,
my
nice.
God.
Die over.
Nice.
We went to a few of those shows, and every one of them was different, and they were all ridiculous.
Yeah.
That dude is the baddest man to me on the planet.
I just wanted everything he wore. I was like, oh, I want to wear that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen Prince several times in several venues, but that one I really liked. The one at the
Forum?
Forum.
Yeah,
the
the Forum
Forum
was
was
great.
really cool.
It's great.
I had one of my favorites though. It's not in the purest form that because it was Roger Waters' The Wall when that tour came around to Staples.
The first time or
The first time, because the second time I think he went to the Memorial Stadium. So I think it was the first run and he did I think a few nights at the Staples Center, and it was the big rock concert production and everything. It would have been great if it was like a Pink Floyd show, but that was back in 1980 or 81.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, they only did like a handful of shows. But to see, because that album, I don't know if I even mentioned that on our albums podcast, where The Wall is definitely one of my favorite albums, just conceptually and just the mood of it. It's real dark, and I really liked that vibe, and to experience that in a live show with the updated production of today, I thought it was incredible.
If I was at the soundboard right now, I would play a little clip from the movie Caddyshack that says, "Do you do drugs, Danny?"
So, when you saw The Wall, did they incorporate because there's the movie, and does it kind of like follow the same story as the movie, or some of the same images as in
yeah,
the movie?
yeah, some of
or-
the same.
or how does
They
that
did
work?
project some of a lot of the animation.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was very similar. But but imagine just hearing the album and hearing the album live, front to back. And I believe there was an intermission, but it wasn't Pink Floyd in its as a band, but the musicians were great. All the singers were great. Everything was good. The production was top notch, and I liked the whole concept of building the wall so that by intermission, the full wall was built.
Mm.
And then eventually got tore down. Blah blah blah. If you're familiar with that album and the story, but just that experience was great. And I had a unique experience of being able to have amazing seats through somebody that I knew. So I was right there in the middle, probably like just a few rows back. And it was a great experience.
Mm.
So much so that I had to go a second night.
Right on.
Yeah, so it was good. But as far as, just as we're talking here, I'm just going through all the years and years of concerts. There's so many.
Well, Chris, you didn't say yours, right? We did everyone's.
Well, I did. I mean,
You
Metallica
jumped off
I was into,
Metallica.
and I kind of jumped off on Prince there
Prince, yeah.
Mhm.
for sure. But probably the Allman Brothers. I saw them at Pine Knob, again a Michigan venue, which is now called DTE, but true Michigan folks will still say Pine Knob. And it was I don't know, maybe early '90s. So. It was ridiculous. The Allman Brothers were just crazy, and I'd known the Allman Brothers because my father's a musician and he played a lot of Allman Brothers and Southern rock, and I never really recognized growing up listening to the Allman Brothers how much of a jam band they were. I just thought they were like a rock and roll band, and that was and I expected to go and see like people that I grew like that were in my dad's kind of circle. Like dudes riding motorcycles and then I thought, oh, this might be kind of a rough show. And I was really surprised. I'm like, there's hippies all over the place around here, and there's little kids, and and so I was really surprised. And but the show was ridiculous. But it was also it was a beautiful day. It's an outdoor venue with a lawn. We're in the lawn seats. I was at that age. I was with a bunch of friends who were cool. I was with this cool chick. So, like, the whole vibe.
Life
of
was
it.
good.
Yeah, life was good. I still have a tie-dye T-shirt that I bought at that show. That's been 20.
He wore it last night.
Yeah.
20, it's been 20 years. I just got it back not long ago. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it depends on the venue for sure. For me, just growing up in a venue and being around so many different venues and being able to go to different places. Growing up when I was 14, 15, 16, the Roxy was like the go-to. It was like all of my artists I could catch at the Roxy. And then, it's the Troubadour, and you watch people climb in, and they go from the Troubadour, and then they play the Palladium or the Fonda or the Wiltern, and then they play the Palladium, then they play.
Capacity gets
it's
a little bit larger.
You watch them
little-
as they
yeah.
get bigger, and like
Yeah.
late, as of now, you see someone work or play, a place like the Wiltern, and then in a few months they're playing the Palladium, and it's like, wow, they've built their fan base 1,000 people in a few months or whatever.
That's pretty
So,
cool.
But it depends on the venue for me, because there are some venues that in LA at least that don't sound that great to me.
Boy, here's an example. My wife and I went and saw Paul Simon. I'm a huge Paul Simon fan. We went and saw him at Pantages, and it was
I've seen people at
Ugh.
Pantages. It's just not a concert
no,
venue.
it's so boring. It was so. I mean,
Why?
and he was ridiculous. He was so good. He was so good, but.
It
You were
feels
sitting
very formal. Yeah.
Yes, it was very formal. You felt like you were sitting in your seat and kind of like nobody was standing up. Nobody was like dancing. Nobody was, and everybody, you'd get done, everybody would clap. And
Golf clap.
yeah. and there was just ridiculous musicians, but it almost like, I felt like it sapped the energy of him and his band. And then like it was just kind of a lame show. I mean, it was amazing. Like the music was amazing, but the vibe was,
Vibes are
It
totally.
was like you were strapped in. You couldn't really get into it the way you wanted to get into it.
No,
sounds like.
no.
Yeah.
I felt like I was, there to see Wicked or something. Should be quiet. And,
Yeah.
That's where they had the Lion King, right?
That's where they have, you know, all
the
when all the
plays.
shows
Plays,
come
yeah,
through.
yeah, yeah.
Although I did see there once. This is completely off topic, but we saw. I thought this would be hilarious. I took my wife to see Dirty Dancing the musical. Let me put it this way: Dirty Dancing the musical was more animated than Paul Simon was
Yeah.
for this. You know, we wanted to be a rock concert. It was. Neither was that entertaining to me, and I love Paul Simon. So what are you gonna do?
Can
I saw
call
the
me Al.
I saw the Simon and Garfunkel reunion at the Forum.
And how was it, or was that even a snooze?
It was okay. It was okay, but it was it was a large venue.
Those
it's an
bigger
arena.
venues get harder for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Well, I was going to ask you guys that. Like, for when you go to see a show, what do you prefer? Do you prefer a larger venue, or do you like a really small, tight little
Small.
club?
I like intimate. I
Yeah,
like
me
sound
too.
checks too. So
Yeah.
I'll try to run in. I mean, I work at the Wiltern Theater, so I'll go see them while they're sound checking, and that tells me everything I need to know.
Yeah.
And then, everyone's like, you shouldn't do that. You should watch when they have the lights and I'm like, no. I want to see who they are. And you can tell the musician, they go up in my ear, and you're like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. Or the people that are just up there strumming along.
I used to in the Bay Area. I used to work for this company, a very big name promoter, and I used to see a lot of sound checks, and it was it was great, such a great experience, and because you see things you don't always see, and they play songs that they never really play live, and it's a relaxed vibe. I've seen AC/DC do a sound check, and Angus is just kind of chilled and doing his thing, but in working so many shows, Prince was the only one that asked the entire staff or like venue staff to step out, while he does a sound check.
Yeah.
They step out, close the doors, boom, he does a sound check. Doesn't allow anybody inside. That was the only artist.
And I always feel super, I wonder when I walk in, like, would this be offensive? Because as an artist, would I want someone watching my sound check? Like, I don't really know, But for the most part, everyone's pretty cool about it, and I just hang in the back anyway.
Yeah,
but it's like, I like seeing, and then it even helps me in my own sound check. Like, it's not just a sound. You're not up there just, you really, how loud are you going to project into the microphone? How are you going to use the dynamics of the microphone? You want to test all of that before the crowd. And then once the crowd comes in, it's going to sound completely different anyway. Like we had Foles the other night at the Wiltern, and he kept saying, I can't hear myself. I can't hear myself. Turn me up, turn me up, turn me up. And he goes, you know what? It might just be one of those things when we've turned it up and we start the show and I'm like, whoa, sorry guys, I can totally hear myself. He's like, I don't know. So it's just cool to watch people that are like, they're in their element in a lot of ways because they're about to do a show, but it's a lot more lax. And it goes back to like leaders and band leaders, and you see who gets to like talk and who's kind of just like standing up there, and or if the drummer just keeps going while everyone stops and he's just
That's what they usually do.
rich.
Well, speaking about like the atmosphere and the size of venues, one of my favorite shows. It was quite a few years ago. It was at Catalina Jazz Club.
Catalina wine mixer.
I think it's called Catalina Bar and Grill or Jazz.
Down
But it was
on Sunset?
the jazz club, on
Yeah.
Sunset.
Yeah, that place is great.
It was actually, I think it's not the current place. I think it was at another place before it moved. But Al Di Meola, one of my favorite guitarists of all time, literally 6-7 feet away. I'm kind of resting my foot on the stage because they had these tables, kind of like dinner cocktail tables,
Right.
and that was the vibe. And I just happened to sit right in the front, experiencing the band as if you're just sitting on sitting on stage with the band while they're jamming, and just that whole experience and playing the songs that I know and watching up close, his fretwork and seeing all the musicians and kind of studying them, and it was an experience like no other.
Yeah.
So that has to, and that to me, that actually tops all the big arena concerts that I've been to. Stadium and arena concerts, they don't compare to that type of experience.
Yeah, it depends on your preference for sure. I love, even during a set when they'll scale it back, like someone like Pink, who has these, acrobatic, and she's on a freaking rope flipped upside down, dipped in water, singing live. And then you're just like, oh my God. And then she like sits down for like the guitar song and still just crushes it with the same, you're still that connected to it. And it's just, I love people that will take time and kind of do a little acoustic thing, strip it down for a second. That always, because you can hear better. You can listen. You can say, okay, what do you sound like just with the guitar, just with the piano? Do I feel it the way that you feel a big band and the drums and the way that, something like that hits you?
That is the challenge, like going to all the metal shows that I've absolutely loved the whole experience. But there are times when you're in front of the PA and it's just a wall of sound and you can't distinguish things, and that's the time I was like, all right, you step away or whatever the experience is. But yeah, that's when it loses, I guess depending on what the band is and what the song is, if you can hear the vibe, it's cool. But that's the downside of when things get too loud. It's like you don't hear the music, really.
Yeah, and in certain venues, the acoustics of them could even exacerbate that too, where you can't distinguish anything. I remember I saw the Beastie Boys, one of my all-time favorite bands, in Cleveland. We were at Cleveland State University. They had a little like basketball arena,
Mm-hmm.
And it was god awful. The sound in there was just awful, and it was the only time I ever saw the Beastie Boys. I was extremely excited to see them. They didn't ever come through Pittsburgh because they were actually banned in Pittsburgh back in the 80s. They were banned because there was like a riot after the Together Forever tour.
Uh-huh.
So all those bands were banned from playing in Pittsburgh. So I never got to see all those bands. So I had to travel to Cleveland, and
Sorry.
so excited
Sorry.
to see. Yeah,
Sorry, you had to go to Cleveland.
Yeah, I know. Trust me, being from Pittsburgh, having to go to Cleveland, it's bad enough being in Cleveland anyway. Sorry, Cleveland. But no, it just kind of ruined it for me. I drove all that way to see the Beastie Boys. And
Which tour?
Hello Nasty. Their last. Well, no, it wasn't their last tour. But they were with Tribe Called Quest.
Oh.
And it was just, everything. It was like just being in a big giant cave. You know, everything was just bouncing everywhere, and couldn't really make out what they were saying. Any of their, even though you knew all the lyrics, at least I knew because I, being a fan, it was just like, wow, this is awful. It was only okay when they were actually like playing their live stuff. Every once in a while, they'll sit down and play some live stuff.
Right.
And it was a little more mellow, just jammy, and that was cool. But whenever they were just going off on all the energy and the lyrics, it was just, you couldn't hear anything. It was just all muddled together, and you're just like, so that ruined it, So that was not a good experience. Don't go to Cleveland State University to see the Beastie Boys.
That's rough. I
I
saw.
thought we were talking about favorites.
Well,
Well, that is one of my favorite bands.
That
That kind of, is the opposite happened.
It's okay. They don't get podcasts in Cleveland.
I don't
poor
think they have
Cleveland's never gonna listen to this podcast.
Yeah. They just barely got electricity in Cleveland. So.
I don't even know who their starting quarterback is anymore. I just know it's not Johnny Manziel, even though everybody else is getting hurt.
Yeah.
I saw the Beasties at K-Wing Stadium in Kalamazoo, Paul's Boutique tour with Henry Rollins and the Lynch Mob.
Nice. Wow.
1991.
Wow.
And I got to be honest, I can't imagine that the sound quality was that good, but I don't remember anything. I remember I was so stoked to go. I remember I loved it, and it was a great time, but I can't remember much else about it. Contrast that with many years later when I went to Interlochen Arts Academy, completely different thing. Very nice arts academy, Northern Michigan. B.B. King rolled through with Billy, what's his name? Billy Blue Bland? Is that his name? I don't know. But B.B. King, it was a sit-down venue, not so different than the Pantages kind of thing, but an outdoor venue with a completely different vibe than the Paul Simon kind of show. His talent, open, outside, beautiful night, amazing concert. And I felt like, I'm watching a legend that I'm probably not going to have the opportunity to see for that much longer. And it was lights out, amazing. Great to see.
Speaking of legends, I love watching people I've had the pleasure of seeing Elton John and Stevie Wonder and all these people multiple times. And for me, they're always going to sound amazing to me. The songs are always going to be great. So I like watching their behavior, like the little jokes they make. Like Stevie Wonder is one of the funniest people on stage, and probably in his real life, but he just cracks joke after joke. And he gets up there and he like waits for, people to walk him on and off, and makes jokes about his, blindness and things like that. And you're just cracking up. Or like Elton John, I saw him in Vegas when he was doing the Red Piano tour, and he was saying, Celine Dion, no wonder she's so skinny. She runs up and down this stage 50 times. And I was just rolling on the floor. I mean, I love seeing artists that are that, famous and just seasoned and just cracking jokes as if they were in your living room, like doing a little jam session and making a joke. So it's the showmanship of it for me.
That is cool.
For sure.
Well, I was going to say, also, especially because of the level of their fame, you've heard the music so many times, and it's almost like, all right, yeah, you're
you
there.
Don't want it to get stuck in some rut where it's like, oh, this sounds like the record or whatever, So to have them like make it relevant again and bring it into the real context of where we are, it's always awesome.
Talent wins. Talent always wins. I mean, you can have an amazing sideshow, you can have amazing lights and stuff blowing up and everything else, but every person that y'all have mentioned they're just uber talented human beings.
At the end of the day, it's like you can have the biggest projection and production and fire and everything, but you could probably have the same experience seeing a show like that and then seeing John Mayer with his guitar.
Yeah,
you'd just be like, oh my God.
You can put Elton John on a Casio, and he's going to sit down, and you're going to be like, God damn, this dude's amazing.
Yeah.
This dude's amazing.
Speaking of lack of production, one of the bands that I really loved seeing was Rage Against the Machine. No production there.
No.
Just a band on stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
jamming.
there's nothing there that's like we're jumping around or like we're blowing up stuff or putting on videos.
Nothing like that. But it always, when you're at one of their shows, the energy and, if you're into the music, it's powerful. It's really cool.
Isn't Foo Fighters are the same way, aren't they? When they play, I haven't seen the Foo Fighters
I have
live,
not
but
seen
I've seen some footage of some concerts. But it seems like they're something like. Have you seen the Foo Fighters at all?
I think I've seen them at like a K-Rock Acoustic Christmas for sure.
But that's not their.
That's not like a full Foo Fighters show. Yeah.
I would like to see them live. I've never seen them.
I would too.
Yeah.
I would like to see Nirvana personally, but
Oh, they're on tour.
yeah. I just watched the Kurt Cobain
the
documentary. It was blowing my mind. But anyway, that's another day.
Well, speaking on the opposite end of the full on production, has anybody ever seen the Flaming Lips live?
No, but Miley Cyrus is playing the Wiltern December 19th, and the Flaming Lips are her backing band.
What?
Well, I didn't
it's
know
called Miley Cyrus and Her Dead Pets,
Okay.
and they're her dead pets. They're and it's the Flaming Lips.
Yeah. Well, I knew she had been collaborating
Yeah, and
with
so
like
people
Wayne
have been
Coyne.
calling and saying like, "Are the Flaming Lips playing?" I'm like, I think
Kinda.
they're her
Yeah.
backing band. Yeah.
Well, I knew she had been collaborating somehow with Wayne Coyne, but I didn't know that was the whole entire band of the Flaming Lips.
Don't quote me on that. I don't know if it's all of them, but I know there's.
Well, that should be interesting.
Some of
She's
them.
pretty talented.
I-
She's up there to me, like like you said about the Disney. Who was it? It was you said about the Disney.
Yeah.
Like she's good. Like she has some talent. Like she might do some things that are.
Machine.
Yeah.
She's definitely a brand business. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
gotta give my hat off to her
Yeah,
or her
yeah.
people or whoever's doing it.
Right.
But I will say I've seen her sing just with a guitar or whatever.
Mhm.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I
There's
think
a
she does
certain
have some
quality
talent.
to her voice that is either, sometimes you can take it or you can't, but she can sing.
This is
Yeah,
a whole.
I
This is a
agree.
whole
I
different
agree.
show.
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
a
yeah.
whole different show.
Yes, it is. I was
But
thinking it too.
but I mean, I'm very leery of like. That's where I want to be. Like, listen, you, Lady Gaga, whatever. You're talented.
Yeah.
Why don't be? You don't go. Got to go for the cheap. To me, it's cheap. That's just me. Maybe I'm old.
Well, we got to
I'm
go a
old
whole
school.
show of play the game and then get to be the artist you want to be.
I guess.
Do we?
I
we'll
guess
do
maybe
that.
if that's art or if it's sensational.
Yeah, because I kind of disagree with you on that, but let's definitely save that for another show. I like that.
Boom.
I like that.
Next
got one coming.
topic.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, everybody. 2016.
Well, the reason I brought up the Flaming Lips though is because if you ever get a chance to see them, I mean, it's just nonstop things going on. There's lights. There's streamers.
Yeah.
There.
Balloons.
I mean, have you seen them?
Only on Austin City Limits.
Oh my God! It's like nonstop. But the thing is, I mean, it's nonstop for the first 30 minutes maybe, and then you are so overloaded with your senses. You know, there's people dancing on stage wearing like costumes like Superman and Spider-Man and all that. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. Everything lights. They're holding up these flashlights that are beaming these into your eyes from the stage, and there's confetti everywhere. And he gets in one of those giant balls, those, what are they called, those big
Beach ball.
yeah, and he walks over the crowd. I mean, it's just everything happens. There's a video screen. And then after a while, it's actually gets difficult. At least for me, it was like, oh my God, I'm exhausted. Because there's music to listen to at the same time. So, but that's a complete opposite
You're
end.
overstimulated.
Yeah, complete. That's like the opposite end of the of what you were saying about the Rage Against the Machine, but equally interesting, I would say.
Kind of another band that it's like low on production, but I absolutely love is Primus. I'm a huge.
Are they low on production? 'Cause did the recent tour?
Well, I should say typically, like
Yeah.
in previous shows. I mean, yes, they would have a screen or a couple of screens there, but I did not catch the
Willy Wonka.
the Chocolate Factory
Yeah,
tour.
yeah.
Yeah, I missed that, but in all the other shows that I've been to, it's they probably have like an interesting prop item, like an astronaut, a giant astronaut, but it's not doing anything. It's there and there's video projections, but other than that, it's the band, and if you're into the music, it's really cool. And that's and when I saw them in mid 90s, early 90s, it was absolutely great. I loved it. I think I saw them twice at the Greek Theater in Berkeley. And that's more of a real Greek theater with the seating and, the style and, it's outdoors, of course. And I just remember those shows being really, really cool, and that's a band that doesn't get too much exposure, I should say, on the mainstream. But Primus.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You got the
Good band.
diehards. Good bass player.
He's okay. Real quick, have you... One of the things when I was growing up, there was always these like Kiss Alive, and I'm obviously we're all dating ourselves here, I think, but it was Cobo Hall. I always read about Cobo Hall.
Yeah.
Up in Detroit. Have you ever been there? Did you ever go there?
I've
I mean,
been-
does it
I've
still
been-
exist? I mean,
It does. I'm
I
not
just remember being. Do you
sure-
remember this? Like always, there was Cobo Hall concerts. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
the Kobo was a huge concert venue, and then Joe Louis. But Kobo, there was always live from Kobo Hall. There's Kiss stuff,
Yeah.
and there were, there's stuff like Bob Seger and, Ted Nugent, a lot of Michigan-based artists. I never actually have been to a concert at Kobo, and I can't remember if Kobo is getting torn down for the new Olympia Stadium for the Red Wings, because it's right down by the river. Right in the center of the city. So I'm not sure. I don't think they do concerts anymore. I've been there as like they have a Kobo Convention Center. I mean it's that kind of deal. But I got to plead ignorant. I'm not that old. I mean I'm old, but I'm not quite that old to be
He's
like
not as old as me.
going to Kiss Alive. Right, going to Kiss Alive. in
Well, I just
1979.
remember reading it on the
Right,
like
on the-
reading
on the
where
liner
they did
notes,
this and
yeah.
hearing about like people playing there.
What year was
liking
that?
to play there.
77?
Yeah, it's gotta
Did Alive 1?
No, Alive.
Oh.
I mean, Alive
Yeah,
2, excuse
Live
me.
2 is
Live
77, 8.
78,
I like Alive 1 was like 75, I think.
Yeah.
But
Alexa's
I mean,
like, what are you
well,
talking about?
let me say, I mean,
I
Did the
wasn't
world
even being
exist?
I wasn't.
thought
I
of.
was a baby, but like when that. But I mean, as a teenager, I remember reading about
Right.
and listening to like the old Kiss stuff.
I have to admit, I've never been to a Kiss show. I've never been
You know
to a
what?
Kiss show.
Here's
I
the
have.
thing. I have not, and they were the first band that my brother and I got into, and I have never to this day seen a Kiss show. But I mean, now you can't really because
No.
it's
That's
not
the
really
problem.
a
You
Kiss
shouldn't.
show.
That's
You
the-
shouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the thing.
You
It's-
but
shouldn't.
it's all good.
Yeah.
It gets
Yeah.
past it. It's not like
It's okay. I mean, my love of Kiss is really those early the
Yeah.
Kiss Alive and Kiss Alive 2.
The
Those are
original
pretty
lineup.
much
Yeah.
those albums.
Mhm.
Beyond that, I was never really
and,
into.
and trust me, when we have the discussion of substance versus entertainment, Kiss is coming up.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
gonna tell you right now.
That entered
Yeah.
my mind already.
Yeah. But speaking of venues
You don't
closing,
like platforms and
Oh.
face paint?
Love it.
I'm not against platforms and face paint at
Then you
all.
shouldn't come to my show. No,
I
I'm just
love it.
kidding.
No, I don't
I'm
have
there.
any.
I love it.
I got no problem with platforms and face paint, not at all. But to me, like if you're gonna do it all, don't front. Get out and play. And I'm just saying that's my
another
You know what?
podcast. Another podcast.
Yeah.
Save it. Save it.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll bring that up. But yeah, you know what? Yeah, there's so many live shows that we can mark up as our favorites. But this could go on forever. We can save it for part 2.
Part
Well,
2.
one
Part
real
2.
quick last thing. Has anybody been to the forum since they've redone it?
I have.
And I've heard it's great, but I haven't been there
The
since they've redone it.
atmosphere, I will say, is amazing. Just being, every usher is in like full suit and tie, and they walk you in, and it's this grand. It's still not like, super redone or anything. It's still a huge venue, but it looks amazing compared to what it looked like having gone to the Forum back in the day. But I'm just not a fan of huge venues like that. The only person I've seen there, or group that I've seen there in the last, since they've been open, that I thought was successful was Mumford and Sons. And that was, and I'm not even like, I was a fan of, I think it was their second album, Babel. But watching them live, hearing Marcus Mumford, who also walked into the crowd, which was a huge open pit at the Forum, which is probably however many thousand people in that pit, and still sounded incredible. That was about the only show that I've seen there lately that I've been like, oh, okay. So it can be done. But I don't know. It's kind of hit or
But
miss.
it was you thought it was a little too hyped for what it.
No,
for what it
I just
delivered.
personally I don't like large venues. Either you can't see or you can't hear or
Yeah.
both.
Yeah.
So in the other shows I would see it was there or there's a lot of aesthetics going on, and I'm not a big person for aesthetic. I want to see, can you play? Can you sing? Can you sing? If you can't sing, I'm out. And so that's big for me. So I need to be able to like be close and be able to hear you and see you. But they've stood out being at the Forum. They've been the one group that I was like, oh, you know what? They did it. They did it right.
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
Rich, though, I'm sure there's a bunch of opportunities to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they're booking.
Yeah.
They're booking shows.
Yeah. Well, I'm definitely going to go one of these days. I just haven't. Well, probably in April. Gonna
Yeah.
go.
Well, this happens to be our last podcast of 2015. So we will catch everybody the following year.
Yeah.
See
What do
you
you say?
next year.
Good year so far. Hey, this is our first year of this podcast, and I guess want to thank all you guys for making it a fun one so far.
Thanks
and
for
look
letting me
forward-
jump on.
Yeah, we're glad to have Alexa on board.
Cool. Yeah, we do have some things planned for 2016, and we'll reveal them when it's time. But yeah, it's been a cool handful of shows so far.
Been fun. So
So,
check us out on tuneupandjam.com, on Facebook, Alexa.
You can check out my music at www.alexamerrill.com.
All right, everybody. Happy holidays. See you next year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.